Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Noah here breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, November the 27th. We got the biggest NBA slate we've had all season. We got a 14-gamer today, so this is going to be a pretty long video. You might want to buckle up, get some popcorn, sit back and relax, because I imagine this is going to be one of my longer videos this year. It's just so many players to talk about. I'll try and do my best of narrowing down the player pool and just kind of the guys I see the night before. Looking at the slate on Tuesday night, who are the guys that really stand out to me? We will talk about DraftKings and Yahoo specific plays. With this being a 14-game slate, I mean, there's a ton of questionable guys heading into this slate, so this is going to be one of those days where you got to be keeping up with injury news. I mean, you should be doing that on every slate, but on a 14-gamer, there's going to be a lot of news that breaks as we go throughout the day Wednesday, so make sure you're keeping up with injury news. Stay up to date on Twitter with Fantasy Labs. Get the Roto Grinders app, download their app and get on NBA alert so you'll get notified whenever news drops. But like I said, I'll do my best to go through each position and talk about the plays that stand out to me the most. We will talk about some of the injuries that we do know as of Tuesday night, the guys that are going to play and maybe the guys that are questionable. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Click that notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. Also, you can follow me on Twitter. Link is down in the description at DFS by Noah. I am very active over on Twitter. I would appreciate it if you guys would give me a follow over there. Also, if you're planning to play the Thanksgiving Day NFL slate on Thursday, I do have my NFL video already up for that slate. Went up on Tuesday afternoon, so if you missed that, would appreciate it if you would check that video out. There's no NBA games on Thursday, so I won't have any videos up on Thursday. I'll just kind of be spending the day with family and stuff, and then we'll be back Thursday night breaking down Friday's slate. But let's go ahead and start off at point guard today. So I think we need to talk about the studs first, how I want to rank the studs. I mean, with a 14-game slate, you got Giannis, Harden, LeBron, Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis, Trae Young, Brad Beal, Drummond, maybe Kyrie Irving, Embiid. Kawhi Leonard should rest today, so I'd take him off the board. But those are just some of the studs, and there's even more we could scroll down and talk about. But just ranking the guys like 10K and above, I think prioritizing them, Giannis is probably the guy I'd rather pay up for. If I'm going to go to one of those 11K and above guys between Giannis, Harden, and LeBron, Giannis is definitely my favorite against the Hawks, 12,400. And I feel like we're going to get a lot of news breaking on Wednesday that's going to open up value. So it should be somewhat easy to fit him in today, even though he's 12,400. But then you have Towns and Davis, both at 10.3 and 10K, who I think are underpriced. Just choosing between those two guys, I would much rather have Anthony Davis. And when we get to power forward, we'll talk about Anthony Davis. I think this is a smash spot for him, facing a Pelicans team that we know plays very fast, is not good defensively, really has no bigs that will be able to stop Davis. I mean, it's going to be some combination of Jackson Hayes, maybe Derek Favors if he plays, Jahlil Okafor, Nikola Melli, Brandon Ingram. These guys have no chance against Anthony Davis. So when you factor in the narrative, the matchup, it's a smash spot for AD. And we will talk about him when we get to power forward. So he's one of my favorite studs. Also really like Giannis. But going back to point guard, I don't think Harden or LeBron are really going to be optimal core plays for me today, because I would just rather get up to Giannis at 12.4 or drop down to AD at 10K. So looking at point guards under them, Kyrie, I do have some interest in today if he's able to play. I mean, you're definitely playing Kyrie today for the narrative. Going back to Boston to face the Celtics, I think there is a little bit of revenge in Kyrie's heart or Kyrie's mind for this game. I do expect him to play very well if he does play for this game. So I think Kyrie's firmly in play at 9,200, factoring in the narrative against Boston. In this mid-range, these 8K guys, I mean, no guys in this 8K range really stand out to me as core plays. Devin Booker is someone that I want to talk about on Yahoo. So he's at shooting guard, and he feels severely underpriced on Yahoo. If we just look at the shooting guard position, Devin Booker is $31. He's the same price as CJ McCollum. He's cheaper than Fred VanVleet, Andrew Wiggins, Mitchell, Drew Holiday. I mean, I really like Devin Booker on Yahoo at $31. I really like this game just in general between the Suns and the Wizards. If we just look at totals for this game and for the slate, this game stands out above the rest as one of the highest total games on the slate. 242 total, or 242 and a half total with only a 8-point spread. So this should be a very high scoring game. It should be competitive as well. The next highest total is 239 and a half between Atlanta and Milwaukee. That game does have a 14 and a half spread though. So that game has potential to blow out. Whereas this game, I mean, there's so many good plays in this game. Obviously on the Sun side, I really like Devin Booker here, especially on Yahoo where he's $31. Even with Ricky Rubio expected to play in this game, Obviously, Devin Booker is going to take a hit with Rubio off the floor, or with Rubio coming back. He has really benefited some games with Rubio out, like in that game against the Kings and that game against the Timberwolves. He put up pretty big scores. I mean, this is just such a good spot. If we look at pace so far this season, these are two top 10 teams in pace. The Suns ranked 10th in pace. The Wizards ranked 5th. If we look at defensive rating, the Wizards are one of the worst defensive teams in the league, ranking 29th in defensive rating. The Suns have actually been much better this season in terms of defense, especially with Ricky Rubio. He has for sure helped out in that regards. I mean, the Suns are kind of middle of the pack in defensive rating. Still, I think this is a good spot for both teams, just given the high total in this game, the pace of play. Love Devin Booker on Yahoo at $31. Even with Ricky Rubio coming back for this game, I think Devin Booker is severely underpriced over there, just given the matchup and just this game environment. But in this mid-range at point guard, I don't see really any core plays that stand out to me on DraftKings. I mean, like Spencer Dinwiddie, I've been playing a lot recently, but now that he's priced up to $7,800, plus it's a 14-game slate, plus it's not that great of a matchup. Also, Kyrie could be returning. Don't really have much interest in him. I mean, like Chris Paul, $7,200, don't really have much interest in. I think Eric Bledsoe is probably my favorite option, $7,100 at home against the Hawks. We saw George Hill miss the last game. I believe it was against the Jazz. Eric Bledsoe only played 27 minutes, which was kind of surprising. I was projecting him for like about 30 minutes or more with George Hill out. I thought there was a chance he could play more minutes. He's been limited to like 28 to 30 minutes. I mean, we haven't seen Eric Bledsoe play like 34, 36 minutes this season, which is kind of surprising. Chris Middleton is expected to return for this game, which obviously is going to take a hit on Eric Bledsoe. I imagine Middleton will probably be limited since he hasn't played in like 2 or 3 weeks. Eric Bledsoe, given that matchup against the Hawks, I mean, Trae Young's just not a good defender. He's firmly in play at $7,100, but I don't think he's going to be a core play for me today. John Morant's going to be an injury we need to talk about and we need to keep an eye on. He is questionable heading into Wednesday. Obviously, if he is out, I mean, Tyus Jones, I'm not sure if DraftKings priced him up. I doubt they did. Yeah, Tyus Jones is $3,200. I mean, Tyus Jones would be like the easiest play of the slate. He would be one of the biggest locks of the slate if John Morant is out. I know John Morant's missed like 1 or 2 games this year, and in that game, I think Tyus Jones played like 30-something minutes, had like 30 DraftKings points. Even in a tough spot against the Clippers, Tyus Jones would be a great value play if Morant does not play today. Lou Williams should definitely benefit with Kawhi most likely resting for this game. This is a back-to-back for the Clippers. As of Tuesday night, we don't know yet if Kawhi is out, but I imagine he's going to be out. He hasn't played on a single back-to-back this season. So Lou Will should benefit with Kawhi out, but with PG healthy, that does take a slight hit on him. And I'd probably rather play Malcolm Brogdon over those guys, over like Bledsoe, Williams. I don't think Bledsoe or Williams are going to be core plays for me because you do have Brogdon at $6,800. Even though he's in a tough matchup against the Jazz, I mean, Malcolm Brogdon, I think, just is still too cheap on DraftKings for the upside that he has. I've been playing him a lot recently. He's been okay. We haven't gotten that ceiling game from Malcolm Brogdon just as of late. In that game against Memphis, he was really popular that slate. He was severely underpriced at only $6K. He put up 35 DraftKings points in 30 minutes. He had 14, 6, and 8, which is kind of a like floor game for Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, we've seen games this season. Malcolm Brogdon can put up a triple-double. His usage with this Pacers team is pretty high. I can pull it up real quick just so you guys can see. I know he's averaging like over a point per minute, pretty wide margin. 1.27 fantasy points per minute. So he's obviously very productive when he's on the floor. He has a 27.4% usage rate this season with the Pacers, which leads the team. I mean, Malcolm Brogdon's going to do everything for this team. Him and Sabonis are going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Even in a tough matchup against the Jazz, I think Brogdon is still probably $1,000, $1,500 too cheap on DraftKings. So I like him quite a bit at $6,800. And with it being a 14-game slate, unless we just get like some clear chalk value, I don't think you're going to see any plays be really highly owned unless like John Morant's out. Then Tyus Jones will be very popular. But guys like Brogdon probably would be very popular on shorter slates. But with a 14-gamer with so many options, you're not really going to see like any heavy chalk on this slate unless it's like really chalk value. Kemba is expected to return for this game against Brooklyn. He feels too cheap on DraftKings at $6,700 for how good he's been this season. Pace-up spot as well. Brooklyn does play at a pretty fast pace. I think Kemba makes a lot of sense. I feel a little bit better going to Brogdon, feel a little bit safer with Brogdon, even in a tougher matchup. But Kemba is definitely underpriced on DK. Someone I want to talk about on DK, like in this 5K range, it feels way too cheap, is Ricky Rubio. So Rubio, I'd like a ton at only $5,500 in this matchup against the Wizards, assuming he's like not limited or anything. I mean, he hasn't played since the 19th of November, so he hasn't played in about a week. He did play in that game against the Kings, but I believe he got hurt. He only played 16 minutes. He is probable today, and he is planning to play against this Wizards team. We know how bad this team is defensively. We know how bad defensively they are against point guards. I mean, Isaiah Thomas, probably one of the worst defenders in the league. Such a good spot for Ricky Rubio. This is a guy that we were paying nearly $7K for, almost $8K for some nights earlier on in the season. I don't know why he's only $5,500 on DraftKings. We've seen DraftKings do this where when guys are out for 3 to 4 games, whenever they return, it's like they're way too cheap. We saw it with Malcolm Brogdon. After he got hurt, he came back, and then he was $6K on DraftKings for some reason. We saw it with Lonzo Ball. Now Ricky Rubio, for some reason, is $5,500 in a matchup against the Wizards. I'm assuming he's not going to be limited since it was only like a 2 or 3 game absence. I mean, if he was going to be out for like a couple months, then I could see him coming back being limited. But I'm expecting him to be full go, and at $5,500 on DraftKings with this high total, fast-paced game, I like Ricky Rubio a ton, and I think he gives you so much upside on this price tag. He's by far my favorite point guard in that 5K range. But if you're looking for value here, obviously we're going to need to keep an eye on injury news because that could open up some value with like Tyus Jones. But Lonzo feels too cheap, even though he hasn't played a ton of minutes recently, even though he's still coming off the bench. I mean, $4,900 for Lonzo in a revenge game for him against the Lakers. I could see going to him as a value play. Isaiah Thomas, I had a lot of interest in on Tuesday night slate. I mean, he's having sort of like a mediocre game as I'm recording this video, which kind of sucks, but he's only $4,600. It's a matchup against the Suns. It's not as good of a matchup as it would have been in previous seasons because Ricky Rubio is a pretty solid defender. But IT in this game that is going to have a lot of points scored, he makes some sense as a value at $4,600. But that's really all I'm looking to in terms of point guard value plays. And obviously you have Tyus Jones down here at $3,200, who would be a great value today if John Morant's out. But let's go ahead and move over to shooting guard now and talk about the shooting guard position. So Bradley Beal at $9,600 stands out here. I mean, in this game against the Suns, it's going to be very high scoring. I don't think Bradley Beal is going to be like a core play for me by any means, but I'll for sure have some games or some lineups where I have like 4 or 5 players from this game. If I'm game stacking, I mean, I want exposure to Bradley Beal in a game with a 240 total, 242 total. Especially, I think with this game against the Wizards and Suns, like I'm pretty sure it was last season, it went to triple overtime, and like 6 of like the 8 players in the lineup that day were like all from that Wizards Suns game. Not saying this game's going to go to triple overtime, but I mean this game should be very high scoring. So Bradley Beal makes a lot of sense. Devin Booker, I'm more interested in on Yahoo, where he's really cheap at $31. Don't really see myself going to him on DraftKings. I mean, in this mid-range, there's not really much that stands out. Lou Will should benefit today with Kawhi out, or Kawhi most likely resting. His pace-up spot against the Grizzlies as well. I could see using him at $6,900 at shooting guard. I think you can play Brogdon at shooting guard, so you could obviously go to him. RJ Barrett is, I believe he's probable. DraftKings has him listed as questionable, but he's probable heading into Wednesday's slate. I'm pretty sure Frank Ntilikina is questionable. Let me just double check that. Let's see. I thought Frank Ntilikina was questionable. I saw somewhere where he was listed as questionable. I think Yahoo had him as questionable. Yeah, Frank Ntilikina listed questionable for Wednesday. So, I mean, RJ Barrett would probably start at point guard, but we could see some Dennis Smith Jr. get some run. He's not shooting guard, but he's point guard eligible. He's dirt cheap at $3,700. It's not the best matchup against the Raptors, but if we get close to 30 minutes from DSJ with Frank Ntilikina possibly missing this game, I could see using him as a value play. I forgot to touch on him. But going back to shooting guard, looking through the mid-range, I mean, there's not much that stands out as like core plays. This is going to be a slate where we're going to have to really keep up with injury news. I mean, none of these guys stand out as core plays, but that could all change if some injuries break on Wednesday. I mean, Satoransky's been playing really well recently. It's a really good matchup against the Warriors. He's been getting pretty consistent minutes as well. Been playing high 20s in minutes just the last few games. 26, 21, 28, 27 minutes. At 5K, I mean, he's a pretty fine value play. He can give you over 30 DraftKings points. His minutes seem pretty safe and secure right now, especially like with Otto Porter out. That's been a big boost for Satoransky. He's been playing more consistent minutes. So he's a fine value at 5K if you want to play him for cheap. But under 5K, I mean, there's not much that really stands out. Like Derek White's in a really good spot against the Timberwolves, and he's been starting at point guard recently, but they just haven't been playing him a ton of minutes. He's only been playing like 24 minutes, and he hasn't been very productive either, so hard to have a ton of confidence in him. Yeah, I think that's probably it for shooting guard value. I mean, there's not much that really stands out here. So let's go ahead and move on to small forward now. So I talked about Giannis at the beginning of the video. I really like Giannis today. He's not going to be a core play for me just because we need to wait and see what kind of value we get on Wednesday. But if we do get a lot of value, I totally am fine paying up for Giannis, even though he's really expensive at $12,400. I mean, the Hawks are going to have nobody that can stop him. It's going to be some combination of Jabari Parker, Damian Jones, and Alex Len trying to slow down Giannis. So Giannis should smash here. The only thing you are concerned about is if the game blows out. He only played 30 minutes against the Hawks. The last time they played, still put up 54 DraftKings points in 30 minutes. 12-4 is expensive, but I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of value on this slate. Nobody on this slate has a higher ceiling or floor than Giannis, so he's my top small forward if I can get up to him. But Paul George, I did want to talk about. So with Kawhi most likely resting for this game since it's a back-to-back, Paul George is going to benefit a ton. He's 8,600 on DraftKings. I like him a lot, assuming Kawhi does rest. We can pull up the Clippers' usage so far this season with Kawhi off the floor, just so we can see the numbers that Paul George has put up. I know it's going to be a pretty small sample size, but we can still look at it real quick. So in 101 minutes this season with Kawhi off the floor, Paul George has a 36% usage rate and is averaging 1.74 fantasy points per minute. I mean, Paul George is probably going to be one of the better plays on this slate, assuming he does not rest. It is a back-to-back, and he's coming back from injury, so there could maybe be some potential rest there, but I doubt they would rest both of their stars. I'm assuming Kawhi is going to be out, so Paul George at 8,600 makes a ton of sense on both sides. I know he's pretty cheap on Yahoo, or kind of underpriced over on Yahoo. I believe he's at power forward if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Paul George at power forward on Yahoo is $44, so you could definitely target him over there as well if Kawhi is out today. I mean, we know he's going to put up big numbers with Kawhi off the floor. But other small forwards that we could look to, my boy Jonathan Isaac's gotten priced up to $7,500. It's a 14-game slate. I don't think he's going to be a core play for me today. I've been playing him a lot recently. Aaron Gordon is expected to still be out for this game. We know Vooch is going to be out as well. So Isaac should continue to benefit, but on a 14-game slate, he's not going to be a core play for me, but I'm definitely going to have some exposure to Jonathan Isaac, especially on Yahoo where he's at small forward and you have to play at least one small forward. He does stand out over there at $33, especially in a matchup against a pretty bad Cleveland defense. But just in this 6K range at the position, I mean, I've been playing Jabari Parker a lot recently. He's felt too cheap just the last few games. He's probably going to have to guard Giannis, so there's a chance for foul trouble for him here. I mean, he only played 27 minutes the last time they played Milwaukee. He had 6 fouls in those 27 minutes, so he fouled out. I mean, it makes sense. He's not going to be able to guard Giannis. He's going to foul Giannis a lot. But this is still a guy that gives you 40-point upside, 40, 45-point upside. We know the minutes are going to be there for him with John Collins out. Milwaukee also is the fastest-paced team in the league, so there's definitely merit to going to Jabari Parker, especially if you're targeting multiple players in that game and maybe just looking for game stacks. I could see using Jabari Parker at 6,400. Draymond Green, someone I'm going to be keeping my eye on heading into Wednesday. He is questionable for this game against the Bulls. If he plays, I like him a lot at 5,700. He's just too cheap for his role in this offense with Curry, Clay, all these guys off the floor. I mean, we know he has triple-double upside. He showed it against Memphis. It's a great matchup against a bad Bulls defense. You can definitely target Draymond, point guard and small forward eligible on DK, 5,700. He would make a lot of sense if he's able to play today. So Davis Bertans is someone I want to talk about on Yahoo's. He's still a little bit too cheap over there in my opinion. He's only $15. I've been playing him a lot on Yahoo recently. He's been playing very well off the bench for the Wizards. I've talked about it multiple times. This is a game that I want to just get as much exposure to as I can between the Suns and the Wizards. 242.5 total, pretty close spread. There's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. I played a lot of Bertans on Tuesday night slate because I thought he was too cheap on Yahoo. As I'm recording this video, he's not having the best game, but I would expect a bounce-back game from him if he does struggle Tuesday. Puts up a big game on Wednesday against the Suns team that still is better defensively, but still plays pretty fast. 2 top 10 teams in pace. Really like Bertans at only $15 on Yahoo. 5,300 on DraftKings. You can definitely play him as well, but probably have more interest over on Yahoo where he still feels too cheap. But then under 5K for value plays. Really, there's not much value that stands out as small forward. I mean, this is definitely a position where we could maybe get some value open up as the day goes on Wednesday if some injuries break. But right now, there's not much that stands out to me. So let's go ahead and move over to power forward now. And Anthony Davis is the first guy that I want to talk about at this position. So he's 10K on DraftKings, which honestly is just too cheap for this matchup against the Suns, or against the Pelicans, excuse me. Even though he's $51 on Yahoo, I still like him a ton over there. Just looking at the studs on Yahoo, you got Harden and Giannis both at 58. Davis and LeBron are both 51. You have Towns at 50, and then Drummond 48. I don't expect Kawhi to play, but you got Trae Young 46, Siakam 45, Beal, George are both 44. I don't think Davis is going to be that popular on Yahoo at $51, and I do like him a ton for GPPs. I think there's definitely a narrative here with him facing the Pelicans. We know how he was like trying to get traded away from that team. I think there is a little revenge narrative here. Even not factoring in the narrative, or not factoring in the narrative, I mean, this is just such a good matchup for Anthony Davis. This Pelicans team has no answer to slow him down. He should be able to do whatever he wants down low. We know he's going to play big minutes as long as the game stays competitive. This is a Pelicans team that is top 5 in pace this season. If we look at defensive rating, they're one of the worst defensive teams, right there with like the Hawks, the Wizards, the Warriors. I mean, they rank 27th in defensive rating. They're top 5 in pace. Absolute smash spot for AD. He still has power forward and center eligibility on DraftKings, which I love. 10K is just too cheap for a guy that legit has close to 80-point upside, especially in this matchup. So love AD at power forward. I mentioned Paul George I like a lot, assuming Kawhi rest at 8,600. You could play him here. Kevin Love's going to be an injury we need to watch heading into Wednesday. He is questionable. We saw Larry Nance put up a big game starting in place of Kevin Love the last time the Cavs played. Larry Nance is still relatively priced on DraftKings. We will talk about him when we get there. But Kevin Love's going to be an injury we need to keep an eye on. Blake Griffin feels too cheap on DraftKings at 7K, but this guy just has not done much this season. And as of late, his best game, just in the 5 games he's played this season, was 35 DraftKings points. When he faced the Hornets just a week or two ago, he put up 34 DK points in 30 minutes. I mean, Blake Griffin is just not being very aggressive this season. I mean, he's taken 15, 18, or 15, 19, 12, 16 shots. Some games he's just not making a ton of shots, which is kind of like hurt him, obviously. He's not rebounding much either. I mean, his rebounds are kind of down. His assists are kind of down as well. Blake Griffin's just not having that great of a season so far. I mean, 7K still feels too cheap for him in a matchup against the Hornets. So I could see using him, but on a 14-game slate, he's not going to be a core play for me by any means. Just in the 6K range, you do have Larry Nance at 6,300. Since he's gotten priced up to 6,300, he's definitely not like a core smash like he has been the last few games with Kevin Love out. But if Kevin Love is out today again, I mean, Larry Nance, I would still have in my player pool. I wouldn't get a ton of exposure to him, but he would still be a guy that I would have in my pool for 6,300. Thomas Bryant is someone I want to talk about on DraftKings, so I think he is too cheap at 6K, especially for this matchup against the Suns. We do already know that Aaron Baines is going to be out today, so it's going to be some combination of Frank Kaminsky and CHEICK Diallo playing center for the Suns, and both of those guys are not very good defensively. We know Thomas Bryant is going to play big minutes as long as the game stays competitive. Even though it's a back-to-back for the Wizards, I still expect him to play big minutes today. I mean, this guy just gives you so much upside, and he's hard to avoid at 6K, especially given this game environment, a game that should be as high-scoring as this game should be. We know Thomas Bryant can get you 20 and 10. If there was ever a spot for him to put up a 40, 45-point game, this is definitely it against this Suns team that we know plays fast. Probably is going to struggle defensively down low with no Baines, with no DeAndre Ayton. I don't expect him to be very good versus bigs defensively. So love Thomas Bryant at 6K over on DraftKings or on DraftKings. On Yahoo, you can definitely play him as well. There are some other center options that I like that we'll talk about, but you do have Thomas Bryant at $23. I usually play anywhere from like 10 to 20 lineups on Yahoo, so I will definitely have some exposure to Thomas Bryant at 23. But he's not going to be like a high exposed guy. We'll talk about Jared Allen, who I like a lot at 24. ENES KANTER, still really cheap, who we'll talk about as well. But going down, looking below 5K or below 6K at power forward, just looking for value plays. There's not really much that stands out in terms of value. Derek Favors could potentially be a value play today if he's able to go. He hasn't played the last few games. He's 5,500. We've seen how good Derek Favors has been when he's gotten the minutes. I'm assuming if he plays, they'll give him the minutes. So that'll be an injury we need to watch heading into Wednesday, whether or not Derek Favors plays. So Daniel Tice is out for Wednesday. We will talk about ENES KANTER when we get to center. I think that's a pretty big injury that we'll discuss when we get there. Even though Ayton and Baines are both out for this game, Frank Kaminsky, he has been starting at center recently, but his minutes have just been so inconsistent. We saw in that matchup against Denver, I mean, that was a matchup where you kind of would expect Frank Kaminsky to struggle. He only played like 19 or 20 minutes. We saw CHEICK Diallo get a ton of run in that game. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they give CHEICK Diallo pretty big minutes again going up against Thomas Bryant. I think Frank Kaminsky might be a little bit too small to guard Thomas Bryant. I'm not sure what their size difference is, but even though Frank Kaminsky's starting at center and it's a really good matchup against the Wizards, I don't really have a ton of interest in him. I'd probably just save the salary, take a shot on CHEICK DIALLO, who we know can be a very productive player when he gets the minutes. Played 36 minutes against Denver, had 32 DraftKings points. I imagine with him playing well in that game, they're going to give him some run in this game. He'll probably play, I'd say, anywhere from like 22 to 24 minutes. Could potentially even play more if Frank Kaminsky gets in foul trouble or something. He's really cheap at 4,100. I mean, he's not a core play by any means, but CHEICK DIALLO would definitely be an option. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if they start him with how well he played last game. If CHEICK DIALLO were to start for this game, I mean, he might become one of the best value plays on the slate. Power forward and center eligible at 4,100 on DK. But I think we pretty much covered all the power forwards that catch my eye right now. So let's go ahead and run through center real quick before we end this video. So at the top of the center position, you got Karl-Anthony Towns, Andre Drummond, Joel Embiid, Siakam, just some of the stud options at the top here. I don't think any of these guys are going to be core plays for me today. I mean, Drummond's in a really good spot against the Hornets, but he's 9,400. I would just rather play Anthony Davis for $600 more. I'd rather play Paul George, who's like 8,600. Joel Embiid feels too cheap against the Kings, but again, I'd probably rather just get up to AD or drop down to Paul George. I don't think I'm really going to be paying up at center much. There are some injuries we need to watch at this position that could open up some value. Rudy Gobert has been out the last few games, and we've seen Tony Bradley draw the start and put up some pretty big outings in the limited time that he's gotten on the floor. So that Gobert injury is going to be a key injury to watch. Clint Capella is also questionable heading into Wednesday slate. If he were to sit, I think Tyson Chandler is still really cheap on DraftKings. Yeah, Tyson Chandler's 3,800, so he could maybe be a value play today. If Clint Capella were to sit, that could open up some value at center. I think this mid-range is probably where I'm going to be living, though. So Jarrett Allen, after his big game last game against the Cavs, he got priced up to 7,600 on DraftKings. I mean, it's hard for me to consider him a good play at 7,600. I mean, the guy has a ton of upside, but for 7,600, I don't think he's worth that salary, even if DeAndre Jordan is out again. But on Yahoo, you got Jarrett Allen at $24. I like him a ton over there. I think he's too cheap. I don't think they priced him up enough. I mean, he's been $18 the last few games. Now they priced him up to $24, which is what he should be priced. This Boston team versus bigs is definitely going to struggle defensively without Al Horford no longer on the team, with Daniel Tice out. That's going to leave Robert Williams and Enes Kanter. Both of those guys should struggle against Jarrett Allen, especially if DeAndre Jordan is out. We saw Jarrett Allen play 34 minutes last game against the Cavs with Jordan out. I imagine he'll play similar minutes if Jordan sits again. Even if Jordan plays, you're still probably going to get about 30 minutes from Jarrett Allen. And with how much upside this guy has, just in terms of double-double potential, he can block shots. I like him a lot on Yahoo at $24. Now, if Kyrie returns, I think that does take a bit of a hit to his usage. I'll pull that up real quick just so I can confirm that. I'm pretty sure he does benefit when Kyrie's off the floor. We'll run the numbers with Kyrie on, and then we'll run them without, or I should just run them with Kyrie off. Let me do that real quick. Take Kyrie off the floor. Run the Curie. All right, so with Kyrie off the floor, we obviously know Spencer Dinwiddie is going to benefit, but Jarrett Allen has played 203 minutes with Kyrie off, has a 16% usage rate. I mean, he's never going to be a high usage player, but he does average 1.3 fantasy points per minute. If we do look at the differential, yeah, he does see a 0.7% bump in usage and a 0.19% bump or 0.19 bump in his fantasy points per minute average. So he's definitely going to benefit with Kyrie off the floor. Even if Kyrie is able to play today, I still like Jarrett Allen on Yahoo at $24. On DraftKings at $7,600, where they priced him up a lot, I probably won't be going there. But just like in the 6K range at center, you got Larry Nance, who you can play here, who I do like quite a bit if Kevin Love's out today. I like this matchup a lot for Jonas Valanciunas against the Clippers. I think this is a matchup where he can have a lot of success. 6,200, I think Joe Val gives you plenty of upside on that price tag, so he would definitely be in play today if you want to go to him in that mid-range. The guy that I want to talk about, though, is Enes Kanter. So we saw Enes Kanter start the last game with Daniel Tice out. He had a pretty productive game. He played 25 minutes against the Kings and put up 28 DraftKings points. He had 13, 9, and 2 with a steal. He almost had the double-double. It was one rebound shy. If he would have got that one rebound, that probably would have put him over 30 DraftKings points. I mean, the minutes should be there for him with Daniel Tice out. They're going to split the center minutes between him and Robert Williams. I don't think Kanter's ever going to play like 36 minutes. They're just not going to give him that amount of time. But we could definitely see him get close to 30 minutes, especially if he's playing really well. Kanter's not like a high usage player, but he's a great rebounder. He can score. He can get you that double-double bonus on DraftKings. So at 5K, especially in a matchup against Brooklyn, a team that we know struggles against bigs, I do really like ENES KANTER a lot at 5K. He's really cheap on Yahoo. They still have him at minimum salary, $10 over on Yahoo. I think he's one of the better value plays. Just looking at this slate the night before, obviously that could change. We could get some injury news break on Wednesday that could open up value, but right now I think ENES KANTER stands out the most on Yahoo at $10, and I like him a lot on DraftKings as well at 5K. If Rudy Gobert is out, then that would open up Tony Bradley as a value as well at 5K. Choosing between Bradley and KANTER, when you factor in the matchup, I'd probably just rather play ENES KANTER, but both guys would become playable options. Mo Bamba's been playing really well off the bench. Vucevic's going to be out for a while. I mean, I don't know why they don't start Mo Bamba with how well he's been playing. He's gotten 20 and 21 minutes the last 2 games. He's put up 22 and 31 DraftKings points. If Mo Bamba winds up starting, which honestly, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, he could become a really good value at 4,900. With him coming off the bench, I don't expect him to play a ton of minutes, so it's hard for me to have a ton of confidence in him, especially when you get Bradley for 100 more, KANTER for 100 more. But I will be keeping an eye on that Magic starting lineup in case it winds up changing or being something different. Like I said, that DeAndre Jordan news is going to be key. I mean, if he's out, that should open up more minutes for Jarrett Allen, who I like a lot today, especially on Yahoo. But I think that's probably it for center value plays. Keep an eye on the Suns starting lineup. I doubt we get it before lock, but with how well CHEICK DIALLO played, maybe they give him the start, and he's 4,100. He's really cheap at the center position. I could see going him as a value play. Clint Capella could miss this game today, so Tyson Chandler for 3,800 could maybe be a value. But that's just kind of what I see for center, guys. I think that's pretty much it for this video. I think I've pretty much covered everything that I see on this 14-game slate. Like I said at the beginning of the video, guys, you want to keep up with injury news today. Make sure you're staying up to date on Twitter, follow Fantasy Labs, get the Roto Grinders app, get notifications so you get notified when all the injuries are released and all the injury news comes out. Because this is going to be a slate where there's going to be a lot of stuff breaking on Wednesday. There's going to be guys who we thought were going to play, don't play. There's going to be guys who we thought would be out are probably going to wind up playing. So always keep an eye on that injury news. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. As always, I do appreciate you watching. Make sure you drop a like before you get out of here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Click that notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. Make sure to follow me on Twitter as well. Link is down in the description at DFS by Noah. Very active over on Twitter. I would appreciate it if you guys would give me a follow over there. But good luck on this Wednesday 14-gamer. No video on Thursday, like I said, guys. Going to be spending the day with the family for Thanksgiving. I mean, there's no NBA games on Thursday anyway, so we'll see you back again on Friday. Hopefully you enjoy, guys. Good luck tonight. Peace.